Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the very first podcast of the Growth Mindset. And this is a podcast series initiated by ISM, Islamic Society of Markham, to help the youth and early professionals in their career development. So, I'm your host, Arslan Ahmed, and I'm currently working in the AI industry. With me is Shahzad Mustafa. He is the president of Indus Systems, providing managed IT services to corporations and non-for-profits across Canada. He is also the board member of Islamic Society of Markham. So in today's podcast, we'll be focusing on the power of mentorship. So Shehzad, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Same here, very excited. So yeah, tell me about yourself, a bit about your career path, what brought you here, and more of an introduction of yourself.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm just a regular guy, kind of raised in the Toronto area, born in Vancouver. My parents immigrated from Pakistan in 1966. I was born in Vancouver, didn't spend too much time there. My parents then we left from Vancouver and then traveled around the world a little bit, back to Pakistan for a while. We were in the UK for a while and then came back to Canada. I've even had an opportunity to live in some very interesting places around the world. We lived 2 years in Khartoum, Sudan, where I had a very unique experience, and I guess it contributed a lot to who I am today. Also spent a couple of years in Medina, Saudi Arabia, learning Arabic language, which was also a very blessed experience, alhamdulillah. Yeah, and I've been raised in the city of Toronto, really a child of this community, was involved a lot in the Muslim Students Association while I was in university in McMaster University, and then kind of took that passion for contributing to the community, beyond my university years, and got involved in various initiatives in the community. And now I'm with Islamic Society of Markham and helping to add value to this community, inshallah. In terms of my career path, I've kind of have a very unusual career path, and it's not something typical that many people may experience. So I really never had a job, right? So after university was over, I very quickly joined my dad's business. My dad started this business back in the late 90s, in the early 90s. And he started a business with the mission to educate people on the use of computer technology, right? So we actually ran a private vocational for a good 12, 13 years. We ran a number of campuses throughout the Greater Toronto area, and we graduated hundreds of students who are now programmers, database administrators, network system administrators, all programmers, and so on and so on. So we did a lot of education in the community, training people on how to use technology. And then in around 2007, we had built up a good B2B business, providing a lot of consulting services. And since about 2007, my brother and I, who are really kind of leading that effort, have kind of focused on managed IT services and really delivering quality services to small to mid-sized businesses. So that's where I'm at. So I'm a little bit unusual in the sense that I've never had a career path like yourself, working for companies and kind of going from role to role. I've really been in one role for the last 30 years. So more of a business person. Yeah.
That's a very interesting path and your
Yes.
journey. Thank you for sharing your journey. And we can see that you've got a very multicultural experiences, and you have been involved in education and training for a long time now, especially for the youth. And that also brings us to the topic of today, unpacking the power of mentorship.
Yes.
So, what is mentorship in your opinion, and how important it is for everyone to have a mentor in their life, and how important is for everyone to have a mentee in their life?
Yeah, so I mean, mentorship is really one's desire to get help from someone else in their own growth, right? And I think when we talk about mentorship in terms of the word, we think of an individual, right? So typically, what happens in the workplace, or let's say in your professional life, if you are, for example, a young, let's say you're a graduate lawyer, for example, right? And you're a young lawyer and you're looking to really develop your skills to be a high quality lawyer with a lot of, proficiency. So what you may want to do is you may want to befriend or ask a very senior lawyer in the community to be your mentor, right? So when you find a mentor, the job of the mentor is not to tell you what to do, right? That's something very important. The job of the mentor is to help you stick to your goals. A good mentor will basically ask you, okay, what do you want to achieve? Where do you want to be 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, right? What are your goals? And then it's up to you as a mentee to be able to identify your goals, right? Say, hey, I want to be able to write my exams by 4 months. I want to be able to apply to 10 agencies or 10 law firms, within 8 months, and so on. So the mentor's job is really to bring you back to his or her office every once in a while and take you to account. Are you sticking to your goals, right? Good mentor will want to make sure that you as a mentee are committed to achieving your goals, right? Now, the mentor, of course, may give you some help along the way, such as connect you to some of their contacts, maybe provide you some valuable insight and advice. But ultimately, a mentor is there to keep you on track on your goals. And that's one of the most powerful relationships you can have with anybody in your life, is to attach yourself to somebody who's going to keep you on track, right? Now, what I really feel, though, is that many people don't have a mindset of growth, right? And this podcast you have, growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? Like, in my view, a growth mindset is when you have this idea that you want to grow, you want to improve. You want to improve in many different aspects, right? Not just in terms of your professional growth, but your character, your spirituality, your knowledge, your attachment to your creator. You want to grow, you want to improve all aspects of your life, your relationships, your family, and so on, right? That's what I call a growth mindset. A growth mindset basically means that, hey, I might be here right now, but I can get up here, and I can make an effort to get up here. Fixed mindset, I tend to find the opposite of growth mindset, is when individuals really they think that they're this and they can never be like this, right? They don't have any aspirations to grow. They feel that, this is the way I am and I'll never change. Or they might, say, oh, I was raised in a certain way, I can never be different. Or I experienced, these negative things in my life, that will always continue to haunt me. I will never change, right? So, you know, of course, mentorship is really the idea that you want to grow and you're going to find the means of growth, right? I don't know about you, but I mean, I personally like, I get it. For me, mentorship is a multifaceted, a multi-pronged approach. It's not necessarily just an individual, but it could be key books that I've read. It might be some videos that I've watched that I've gained some wisdom from, right? It might be like, you know, um, for me, for example, I would say that in my life, I get inspired by certain personalities, by certain books that I've read, and it's really helped me to grow, right? And for me, that's also mentorship, right? Reading biographies of extremely successful people can give you ideas or mindsets to also help you be on a path of growth. So for me, mentorship is a concept, a broader concept. But in terms of your question, I do feel that a mentor is really somebody who will sit with you on a regular basis and help keep you on track with your goals.
Perfect. I think that's great. Like, it provides, I think, you guardrails to you to help you grow and develop a growth mindset. Definitely. Since we're targeting the youth of the community and early professionals over here in the podcast, so what do you think they should starting to look at the mentor? Like, what do you recognize that, okay, now you need a mentor in your life? What's the point?
Well, I mean, I think in all aspects, right? So if you are hungry for growth, number one is, are you hungry for growth, right? If you're not hungry for growth, you're not going to be motivated to find a mentor, right? So number one is examine yourself. What is your purpose in life, right? As Muslims, we know that Allah created us to fulfill a certain purpose. And that purpose is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to live according to the commandments that he sent down on this earth, right? And that involves, being active. It involves making a change. It involves doing good for society, right? To enjoining the good. It also means, changing the bad in society, right? So that also involves changing yourself, right? Improving yourself. So if you are hungry for growth in terms of your uh, Islamic character, then you're going to find the teachers in the community that you can learn from. It could be an imam, it could be a teacher, it could be, somebody with knowledge who is good at teaching, and then you will kind of spend time with that individual and you will learn from them, right? So that's how you kind of grow as a Muslim. Now, in terms of a professional, the same thing, right? Once you're hungry for growth, find people in the community that you feel have achieved what you want to achieve, right? Not just people who talk, right? So my belief is find people that have actually achieved real things, right? And then say, I want to learn from you. How did you achieve these great things? So, for example, I'm a business person, right? So I get inspired by entrepreneurs who have achieved greatness. Whether you like them or not, people like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. In current times, in the older times, Thomas Edison, you had Henry Ford. These were individuals that achieved a lot of greatness within their specific areas that they worked in, right? So I find a lot of inspiration when I learn from people that have actually achieved great things. So, for example, if you read the biography of Elon Musk, you'll you'll I you're able to pull out key success formulae in there, right? That you can incorporate in your own personality. For example, I'm greatly inspired by Elon Musk's sense of urgency and a sense of mission, right? So, I take that away and say, what is my mission? Where's my sense of urgency? Am I getting out of bed every morning? Am I getting after it, right? Or am I just being easy, laid back, right? I also gained a lot of inspiration from certain scholars. Like, for example, more recently, I learned a lot from Sheikh Tawfiq Chaudhry, right, who was at one time the founder of Mercy Mission. So here is a sheikh who's an expert in Sharia, spent time learning Islam in Medina, but he's also running an organization that's doing a lot of good in this world, right? So he's not just teaching, but he's actually implementing those teachings in a real way. That greatly inspired me because that shows that as a Muslim, I can also have impact in this world, right? So finding people that have achieved greatness. As opposed to, like, there's a lot of stuff online. I don't know, Arsenal, if you've noticed, there's a lot of stuff online, like on LinkedIn and on Instagram, that's all these sort of positive thinking quotes and checklists and all that. That's a bit over.
Exactly.
That's too much. That's too much, and people get addicted to that stuff, right? You get addicted to self-help books. You get addicted to all these, Instagram and LinkedIn posts that people are doing. I say no, ignore all that. Rather, work with people that have achieved greatness and learn from them.
Awesome. So, being a man of action rather than being a man of words, basically.
Yeah, being a person of action. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I strongly believe that a lot of people can talk about success. A lot of people can talk about, you know, um, how to be successful, but work with people that have actually done it. Speak less, but they actually have done more, right? And you can learn a lot from these people. Like, you can go into your community and find those successful doctors, successful lawyers, successful, even, as a father, find find men, or if you're successful women who have, raising great families. And if you want to be a father or a mother, you know talk to people that have actually raised kids and learn from them, right? And then you can take that at an early age and start incorporating that in your life.
Awesome. So with this, Shahzad, what do you think that makes a person a good mentee or a mentor?
So a mentee meaning a person who's receiving mentorship, right? So
Yes.
I think there is, number one is a hunger for growth, right? So you're committed. You're committed. How many times have I had people come up to me and say, Brother Shahzad, I need help with something. One classic example is, somebody's looking for a job, right? And I say, okay, cool, you're looking for a job or you want to break into a certain industry. Do me a favor, go out and find 10 people on LinkedIn who are who kind of represent the kind of role you want to get into, right? Find 10 people in your network. Reach out to them and see if you can book a time to have a call with them. So maybe they can introduce you to their network. Maybe they can introduce you to their company. Maybe you can get some advice on how to enter that workforce. Another example could be is, you know, go online and send 20 resumes to 20 companies that are hiring in your industry and come back to me. Very rarely do people actually do those things, right? So be committed to, number one is be hungry for growth. Number two is be committed to your goals, right? If you're going to go to a mentor and the mentor is going to say, okay, how many resumes are you going to send out by in 2 weeks? If you say 20, make sure you do 20. Because if you come back and you say, oh, I didn't do anything, the mentor is going to say, well, you're not serious, right? And why would a mentor spend any time with a mentee who's not serious, right? So be committed to following up on your goals, right? And also be a little bit humble. Humility is very, very important in anything, right? Be humble. Um, you know, uh, accept your weaknesses. Take advice. Be open to learning. Have an open mind. Always be learning. Don't think, oh, you know everything and you're just like level one, right? So, don't think you're at level 5 when you're really at level 1. Be humble. Know where you are, and then go up one step at a time in terms of your knowledge and your growth. I think those are the 3 ingredients. Number one is your hunger. You have hungry for growth. You have hunger for growth. You're committed to your goals, and you have humility.
Perfectly summed up, Shahzad. So, what challenges are there in the mentorship that you think that could be the challenging aspects of being a mentor? One, as you mentioned, some mentees are not very committed. Apart from that, what do you think are the key challenges and how to face them, how to address them?
As a mentee or as a mentor?
Both as a mentor, and then you can describe about the mentee as well.
I think for the mentee, it's really like if I was a mentee, is that my biggest challenge is that, am I committed to taking action, right? Am I committed to following up with the commitments I'm making to my mentor? Am I willing to follow up? If you are, you'll be a very successful mentee, right? Because the only thing that will change you, the only thing that will change your life is action, right? Progressive action. If you're just thinking about it all the time, if you're just talking about it all the time, people dream a lot, but they don't really act on it. So the biggest challenge I find is just following up with your commitments, and not giving up on the process, right? So not getting discouraged. Of course, you sometimes you will miss commitments. For whatever reason you were not able to follow up on things, but don't give up. Just continue. I think the ability to continue a relationship is important. Even as a mentor, the mentor, their biggest challenge is going to be time, right? So, many mentors, like imagine if you were an aspiring doctor and or medical student, and you're looking for some mentorship from a doctor or physician. They're very busy. They don't have lots of time on their hands. They may only be able to give you 1 hour every 2 months. Good. So as a mentor, I want to make sure that 1 hour is useful, right? So as a mentor, I want to help my mentee identify their goals and stick to their goals. That's really the biggest thing I can do as a mentor, rather than just give them tons of advice. If I just give them tons of advice, then sometimes the mentee may not be able to process that information and make it actionable, right? So a good mentor really is not giving answers. The mentor is really helping the mentee stick to their goals. I think that's the biggest challenge with mentorship. Many mentors don't know how to mentor. They're just all about advice. But really, it's about advice, but it's also about keeping the mentee on track with their growth.
Exactly. So, like in any relationship, mentee and mentors may have disagreements as well. Maybe you're assigning me some goals that or advising me that I may not like. So, how do you navigate different viewpoints as a mentor and a mentee in a mentee-mentor relationship?
I think like, well, if as a mentor, I should also be a little bit. I should also have humility. I should also have humility and recognize that young people are going through a process of growth. In fact, we're always growing, right? And as a mentor, I want to make sure that I'm helping my mentee at the level that they're at, not at a level that they're not at. So a mentee may make mistakes. They may make bad choices. But as a mentor, maybe what I should do is I should let them make those choices. But but they should experience that that choice was perhaps not the best choice. So at least the mentee has learned in the process, right? Um, so there's humility on the mentor side. At the same time, the mentee should also have humility in knowing and appreciating that it's, a wise person, I feel, learns from the experience of others rather than making the mistakes himself, right? Making mistakes and failing is part of growth. We have to accept that we're going to fail, right? Because we may not necessarily know the right answer. But if I'm talking to somebody who's already achieved greatness in a certain area, then I should have the humility to say, you know what, let me follow their advice and let me try to follow that route. That could actually save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration, right? So, for example, if I wanted to break into, let's say you're an AI, expert in artificial intelligence, and I wanna, let's say my goal is to work for Tesla one day, right? Now, I could, on my own, just go online, start applying to jobs, and just get frustrated when they're not answering my question. As a mentor, I might say, hey, you know what? I know two managers that work at Tesla. I can connect you to them. Now, if I say, no, 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 I don't need to do that, I'll just keep applying this way, you're kind of wasting a lot of time, right? You're not taking that advice that the mentor is giving you, right? So it's humility on both sides, I feel.
Right. So humility is, of course, important, as you mentioned, in any relationship, specifically here as well. So with that, you shared a lot of good things, a lot of good pieces of advice, and challenges as well. Would you like to share any personal story you have of a mentor who influenced your life or maybe your track? You mentioned a bit about your early career, but just can you give more details on it or any experiences that you would like to share for the youth and professional general community?
Um, yeah, again, I mean, I've never had a tight mentor relationship in the way that we've been describing it on this call, because I never really understood the concept. Was never exposed to the concept when I was growing up, right? I wish I had. I wish there was a vibrant mentor community. That would, that could have changed the course of my life. Like certain bad decisions I may have made in my younger years may have been avoided if I had talked to the right person and taken their advice. So I do feel that it is important that we develop a strong mentor culture within the Muslim community, right? A formalized mentor approach, where mentors know their job, right? They know how to mentor, right? And I think that's something that would be a huge benefit to our community if you had one, inshallah. And maybe Arsalan, maybe that's your mission, is to help establish a mentoring program with the Islamic Society of Markham. I think for me, the mentoring experiences that I've had were kind of by chance. So I could say that, what's influenced me a lot in terms of my growth have been certain individuals that I've had the pleasure of interacting with. And they range from all over, right? So I personally am a person now that's always keeping his eyes open for learning how to better myself, right? Because I know my weaknesses. my deficiencies, and I'm always looking for ways of improving myself. Sometimes that might be through a colleague, right? So I remember in Mercy Mission, when we used to do a lot of projects together, there were some brothers and sisters who I found had excellent ability to deliver on projects. They just had a certain secret sauce, that they could deliver massive results. And so I observed them and I learned their style. And I, one thing I learned was take action, right? Default to action rather than just thinking about issues, right? So that's something I took away, right? I learned a lot from certain shuyukh that I've associated with in my life, right? Certain shuyukh that have taught me about Islam and how to think like a Muslim, how to how to orient my life around Islam and the mission of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's a certain shuyukh that have had massive impact on me, right? I learned things from my own children. Sometimes I see things in my own children or in my wife, things that I say, wow, that's you're being very like generosity is one thing I've learned from a lot of people. I remember my father-in-law was an extremely generous person, right? And even within my relatives, there are individuals that are extremely generous, and something that I feel that I need to work on. And I've learned from their style how generous they are in terms of their love and their time and even helping others, right? So I've really learned the power of being generous, of having a loving sort of relationship with people, right? I've learned a lot from my father, right? My father, who started this business from zero, basically trying to survive. He started this business from zero. And I have a lot of respect from people who start from zero, who build a business from zero, right? The kind of sacrifice that they had to do, the amount of commitment he had to show to build this business, I've learned a lot from, right? So I would say my mentorship experience has been more organic, just by interacting with people in my community and getting the best of what everyone has to offer, right? And not thinking that I'm the best, right? I always have room to grow. I also learn a lot from certain personalities, biographies of entrepreneurs or people that have achieved greatness. I've learned a lot from just reading the Quran and the Sirah and learning how the prophets of Allah were committed, to their mission, and how they dealt with adversity and how they persevered and how much trust they had in Allah, right, in their life journey, right? I think I've in the Sirah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is something that everyone needs to study and derive powerful leadership lessons from their own lives, because the Allah has put the prophets through experiences that we all experienced as well: adversity, opposition, discouragement, physical harm, all of these things, right? And they've always been able to persevere. So I think for me, it's been a lot more organic, but I really wish when I was growing up, there was a mentoring, also certain teachers, by the way, I shouldn't forget. And when I was growing, whether it be in elementary school or high school or university, there were certain teachers and professors that had massive impact on me, just by the way they spent time with me, by the way they tutored me, by the things that they taught me. I think I've learned a lot from them as well. But I do wish, that your generation would create a mentorship program in our community so that youth are able to fast track their growth, in a structured way, inshallah.
Definitely will take on your advice to
Yeah.
work on such a program. And I believe from the discussion, it's more about like I'm not the best, and I definitely have to grow and develop a growth mindset. So with that, would you uh, would you mind sharing any final thoughts, any final piece of advice for the audience before we go?
I think, like, I say, don't waste your time. Don't waste time, right? And as a young person growing up, I wasted a lot of my time, just doing nothing, doing bad stuff, being confused. Every hour of your time, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, should be filled with value. Every hour. So think about every hour and think about what can you do in that 1 hour that will add value to your life, to the life of those around you, your loved ones, in your professional life that will add value to your company. If you're running a business, that 1 hour, how will it add, growth to your business, right? And, think about every single hour, making every hour of your life filled with value, even if it means chilling out, hanging out with your friends, having fun. It should be wholesome. It should be building relationships. It should be good for your mental health, right? Avoid doing things that bring you down, whether it be doing sins or wasting time or just mindlessly scrolling on the internet or on your phone, just zoning out. No, constantly enrich yourself. Read books, visit scholars, learn your deen, grow your skills. I do find that a lot of young people don't use their time to grow themselves. So for example, how many times have I had young people come up to me who want to be aspiring programmers? I want to get into technology. Look at this cool technology stuff going on. I want to be a developer. I want to, do this and do this and do this. And I say, yeah, so I give them advice, but then I ask them, what are you doing now? They're in high school, they're in university. You can start working on stuff now. That will grow your skills. You can learn how to code in Python. You can learn how to develop a website. You can learn how to build an app. It doesn't cost you anything, but get interested in stuff. Be curious, and have hobbies that will have you producing stuff rather than just constantly consuming on your phone, right? So produce stuff, right? The other thing also is like get involved in the community, volunteer, build relationships where you're giving back, right? We've become very much inward-looking people. We're just constantly worried about ourselves and our own interests and our own comforts. But spend time and benefit other people. Get involved in the masjid. Get involved in your school. Get involved in the community. When you get involved, you'll build your skills. Not only will you be giving back, but you'll build your skills, your communication skills, your ability to organize, your ability to communicate, your ability to build relationships, right? So take action. Don't just read, but also take action, do stuff. When you do stuff, that's how you grow. So that's my biggest advice for young people is don't waste your time, and constantly be doing stuff that's going to be building your skills and capacities, your capabilities.
Right. So failing is better than doing nothing.
I'm
Wasting
sorry?
your time. Failing is better than doing nothing. Failing and then getting lessons learned.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be super productive all the time. You need to have downtime. You need to have time for yourself where you're not thinking about anything. I think ibadah, the time that you're doing your salah, is a great way of connecting with the Lord and away from the dunya for a while. But also, as you go through your day, let's say you're at school and you got all these lectures in the morning, take some time off and just walk outside in nature, not on your phone, just walk around, just connect, refresh your mind, and then re-engage so you don't get burnt out, right? There's a lot of burnout that's happening. There's a lot of mental health challenges that are happening because I think people have lost direction, but also they're getting burnt out by the extreme busyness of living in a big city like Toronto. So take time out for yourself as well. You don't have to be super productive all the time, but make it wholesome.
Awesome. So thank you very much. With this, we'll wrap up our today's
Thank you, Arslan.
podcast.
This was fun.
We appreciate your time and all the insights that you shared, valuable lessons for the youth. And with that, we conclude the podcast and see you next time.
Jazakallah
Thank
khair.
you.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Arslan. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.